Bum 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 bum.
Hello, readers. Welcome to 20 Questions with Your Favorite Author, where we ask authors important questions like, why would you agree to be on this podcast? I'm Kelly Lynn Colby, Editorial Director at Cursed Dragon Ship Publishing. Our guest this week is William Joseph Roberts, spec fic writer and jack of all trades. William was an F-15 mechanic and staff sergeant in the United States Air Force. During his lifetime, he has been called a jack of all trades, a Renaissance man, and an insane squirrel wrangler. He currently resides in the quaint southern town of Chickamauga, Georgia, and with his loving wife, 3 freaky smart nerd children, and a small pack of fur babies. If he's not your favorite now, he will be after.
Wow. Okay. I don't know if it was loud on y'all's side, but you were almost drowned out by the intro music.
I know. You know the problem? It is very loud when we do this, but when we send it out to the audio, you can't even hear the music at all.
Gotcha.
So unfortunately for the live thing, it sounds really loud, and our tech guy is working on it, but he has not quite figured out how to fix that yet. You know, all of us, with this being our actual fun job instead of our, actual pays the bills job, we do the best we can.
Oh, yeah. Oh, totally.
Yep. So I feel you. I feel you.
Oh, somebody else from Chickamauga. Okay.
Hey, look at that. Never even heard of it. And Friday's like, oh, yeah, totally got it. Oh, Spikette knows too, but she's in Atlanta, so.
Okay, all right. Well, that's just a little ways down south from us.
Just down south, yeah. Dragon Con's just a hop, skip, and a jump for you, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's about 2 hours down to Atlanta from here, which ain't bad. That's one of the reasons why we ended up landing here, because it's roughly 2 hours from a lot of good places. You've got Nashville, Knoxville, Atlanta, Huntsville, Birmingham, and there's all kinds of history, all kinds of science, all kinds of job and education opportunities for the kids as they get older. So, it was a nice little hub section of the country to be in.
Yeah, smart. You've got city, you've got country, you've got it all. That's actually a very clever plan.
Yep.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So I do want to say that I adore how you describe your children. So, I don't know if they appreciate it. They're young. They might not appreciate it, but I think it's awesome.
What, the nerdy geek kids? Or
yes.
Yeah. But they are.
You're like they were destined for it.
Oh, no. They bask in their weirdness.
Good. I love that.
If you're at most conventions where I'm actually on panels and doing things, my oldest, she's my handler. So she's running around making sure I'm getting to my panels. And at Dragon Con, she's sending me text messages from school. Hey, you got a panel in 15 minutes. Get your ass there now. Like, what? Come on, man. You're in class. I'm a dragon. What are you doing?
Someday they're going to be your personal assistant. You see, they're going to make sure you get to the places you need to go.
Because I get sidetracked. People want to talk, and I get to talking with somebody, and I completely forget what I'm doing. So that's usually, hey, you got to go. You got to go. Crap. Okay, let's go.
Surprised you don't pull her out of school just to go with you.
Oh, we have, like Fantasy. We went to Fantasy. She was yelling at me, cussing me in the lobby of the hotel. Get your ass in that panel room right now, because people were like yelling at me as I'm walking by the bar, like, "Hey, hillbilly! Hey, come here!" It's like, and I start to turn, and she starts cussing at me. Like,
and she's like, "No!"
Yep. So here we go on to the panel room. Yes, ma'am.
Oh my gosh, I love that. So, do they like your books?
Yes, and actually, this one, I got props with me. See, my first novel, Flux Runners, it's sci-fi with it's like the crew of Firefly turned up to 11. It is the chaos I had to get out of my system before I could write something that was serious. She's read this like 5 times. She's actually been rereading it because in her ELA class, they get credit for books that they read, and if they dress up as a character, bake or cook something from one of the stories, or all these other things that you can get a little extra credit. So she's dressing up as Mom because Mom is Tuckerized in it.
Oh, I love it. I mean, sad that you killed your wife in it, but
No, she didn't get killed. She just got, well, not yet. I haven't decided who's going to die in the main crew, but there's a lot of characters.
Tuckerization was specifically that they were going to get killed.
No, it's just that they're written into the stories.
Gotcha. Yeah, and Maya, I'm with you, because when you were like, until I started writing serious stuff, and in my head, I'm thinking serious stuff. I mean, like, what exactly? And yeah, so Maya's calling you out on Smuggler's Run.
What? Wait, what? Right.
Maya says because Smuggler's Run is so serious.
Well, now, okay, Widowmakers and Wildcat got a little more serious.
All right.
Smuggler's Run was another delve into the chaos.
Gotcha.
I like adding comedy. I like having fun. I like maiming characters and making them earn whatever they're going to get at the end of it. So, but it's just like when we're gaming. I don't like collecting character sheets because that's boring. Let's keep the story rolling. Let's give them psychosis and make them deal with it.
Yes. You mean you just wing it? You know, do you DM a game or do you?
Yeah, I'm usually the DM here at the house,
Yeah.
and I've killed a lot of the standard rules just so we can play and we keep it rolling. Like, the magic system. Okay, screw all that crap. It takes too freaking long. We're not sitting here and rolling all that. No, make a concentration check. Did you hit your target? Cool. Moving on. Just to keep the story rolling. So, it's homebrew rules.
I like it. Yeah, no, I break all the rules too just because I don't know what they all are. So I feel you totally.
Yeah,
100%.
that too.
But again, I play with writers, just like you playing with your family, right? And the story's more important. That's what we want to have fun.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm still kind of pissed off about second edition not being the main one anymore and having to buy new books after I had shelves and shelves of books.
The books, though, they're pretty. They make me happy. Except the writing's like this big, and I'm way too old for that. I need like a magnifying glass to read anything in there. So hence, I have the pretty books, but I tend to read everything online because I can change the size. I'm too old. I can't read that. Well, speaking of the writing, how long did it take you to write your first book?
Oh, God. Well, I mean, where do you want me to start from? From the original when I really started writing, or when I finally sat down to write the first novel hardcore? Because there's a difference there. I mean, I've been writing since like grade school, junior high, and all that. Back in like 2001, 2002, I actually started working on my first novel, it's an epic fantasy. And warning to anybody out there that is paranoid that somebody's going to steal your crap. They're not going to steal your crap because nobody knows who the hell you are.
Right. Every time I get a new person I'm editing and they're like, now I need you to sign something that you're not going to take it. I'm like, I'll sign whatever you want. I'm telling you, no one's going to take it.
do not password protect the read and the write, and use fingerprint, because
Is that what you did?
I did, and that technology breaks and stops working. You forget your passwords and you lose access to your files for over 20 years.
Oh, ouch.
We just got them back last year. I get to write that novel finally.
Yeah, except that you've written lots of novels since then, so you're probably going to look at it and go, oh.
It needs work. I've already started looking at it, and it needs work.
Oh, nice.
But there's already 60,000 words there.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, cool.
It's a lot of clay to play with.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm going to, here in the near future, it's going to be done. But for Flux Runners, it actually took me about 4 months to write it.
That's pretty darn fast.
It was going slow,
right? We're still learning.
For the first.
Yeah.
Now it was a lot of bouncing around, world building and stuff like that. Beforehand, just tinkering and dropping ideas in place for a couple of years. But when I actually sat down to start writing, it was about 4 months when I actively started. Probably 9 months worth of editing and back and forth, eyes off, pass it off to the wife. Just because, I wanted it to be as perfect as possible. And I finally got to that point of, I'm tired of looking at you. Screw you. We're done. Publish. And, in the process of finishing all that up with the editing, I started Three Ravens, and I published. That was the first novel through Three Ravens.
And Three Ravens is your publishing company.
Yes, Three Ravens Publishing. We started actually opened the doors in April of 2019. Yeah, April of 2019. But the first book didn't get published until November. And before then, I had one of the Flux Runner short stories that I published in October, just doing a test run to figure out how to do Amazon.
Hey, we started about the same time. Cursed Dragon Ship was July 2019, and our first book also came out in November. So that's pretty cool.
Okay, and
pretty cool.
Since then, it's just like boom, boom, boom.
So my question is, why did you do this? I ask myself this question often, by the way, and I don't have a good answer. Why were you crazy enough to open a publishing company?
Okay, now that's a fair question, because the writing, that's different.
Yes,
we all know how we have to take care of the.
Mm-hmm.
it hurts if I can't get some kind of creativity thing going and done and out, and because the brain will just explode. The publishing side, really, the more that I looked at it, and with how hard it was to get into the trad pubs, it's like with all the stuff that's available for print on demand and everything that we can self-publish, why? Why not just go ahead and do it? And originally, Three Ravens, which I have two partners, that's why there's three of us, and we started out as our own little place to publish those labors of love. But in the process, we kind of opened the doors to help others to realize that they can do the same thing, because the trad pubs are only going to do so much.
Right.
What takes us 3 months to write will take somebody 3 days to read. There's plenty of room out there. There's no competition when you really look at it, considering there's millions of people in the world. So, if it's a good story, it's a good story. It needs to be told. And that's the one thing with Three Ravens. I want fun stories. I don't want something that's going to be world changing or give me some new epiphany. No, take me on an adventure. Tell me a story. Make me laugh. Make me cry. I want to enjoy the trip. I want to be sucked in with the characters. And that's kind of where our bread and butter has been. I mean, with my stuff and the comedy tie-ins, I've got 4 or 5 different comedy novels, satires that are actually in through Three Ravens. Let's see, John Drake's got 4, and the Chronicles from the World of Guilt, that's out there. It's a collection of short stories, but it's that British sarcastic humor and post-apocalyptic end of the world thing. I fell in love with it. But we've been tending to stay with the fun, the interesting. It came from the trailer park. How much more stupid can you get other than B-rate cheesy horror flick stuff, creature feature kind of stuff? And I
mean, that cover's awesome too. I love that one.
Well, that first one, people hated it, and then it grew on them. And then it's just like, that's exact. I mean, okay, I had a copy of that, and I got done with Jonathan Mayberry's workshop at Superstars, and went up, started talking to him, thanked him for the thing, because what he was saying was just reiterating stuff that I'd already heard and I already started following, and it's like, okay, it's validation of things that I've been doing, which is great. And then it's like, so I need an anchor author. And I just showed him the cover, and he smiled, grinning, man, big. It took all weekend. Finally, Saturday night, we got to sit down at the bar and have a chat. And I finally got to buy him a martini because everybody else was wanting to talk to him. But I got the anchor story from him. I've also got Arlen Andrews in volume 2, and then Larry Correa, same kind of thing. I went up, talked to Larry. I was actually passing a message off for another friend. But after I got done passing the message, I was like, so I don't have an opening essay. And I just showed him the cover of the first one, and he just grinned real big. He was like, I could do something. and the opening essays, I got Pierce Anthony for Misfits of Magic. I got an opening essay from David Drake for our Blood, Sweat, and Steel military anthology. And I'm not asking him for much. It's like, okay, give me some of your experience in the genre and some words of wisdom for the up and coming authors before we lose the tribal knowledge from the old guard, So anywhere and everywhere that I can grab a little bit of that and help push it forward to somebody, it might be just what somebody needs to hear.
Yeah, Maya says there's clearly something about the first one because people really liked it. So yeah, definitely.
Well, let's see.
So much fun.
The first one has basically stayed in the top 100 in 3 categories since last year. It took number 1, 3 categories opening weekend, including the number 1 overall in horror anthologies.
That's really cool.
It's just like, what the hell? I have no idea why it's doing this.
Because it's fun. You're right. You put the fun in.
Yeah, we are currently at number 52 in horror anthologies Kindle, number 69 in horror comedy, and number 95 in horror anthologies book.
That's awesome. So impressive, especially for an anthology.
Yeah,
so
it's just
that's pretty impressive. Yep.
And that's one of those, I was just sitting there doing the dishes, and it popped in my head. It came from the trailer park. And I looked over at the wife. It's like, I don't care if I'm going to make any money on this or not. This is just going to be fun to do.
We're making this. Yeah.
And we did it. And just like, what the hell's going on now?
We have a brand now. We're gonna have to go with it.
Yeah, but that's actually kind of one of those things that helped to put us over into that. This is where we're going. As we've been building Three Ravens, and one of my good friends was at Fantasy with us, and they were looking at their table, and it's like you really can't tell what you are yet, but it looks like you're going fantasy, and we are. We're fantasy heavy. We've got urban fantasy, we've got military fantasy, we've got epic and high fantasy. I mean, we're a fantasy publishing company. Is really what our bread and butter is. And I don't know where Trailer Park falls into other than just redneck fantasy, maybe. But
It's a whole nother genre.
but that's where we're falling into, and I've got no problem with that. The couple of sci-fi bits like Flux Runners, and we've got Crossways, the first Wayman Chronicle by Michael J. Allen coming out, and it's that similar chaos that I had in Flux Runners. If you ever enjoyed Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah, I think that's what that cover reminds me of. That's probably why I like
that's what it's supposed to remind you of.
Well, it worked.
But you take Big Trouble in Little China with interdimensional truckers, and chaos
that sounds
ensues.
like a winner. Yeah,
it's a great novel. He's wrapping up the edits so we can get this thing into the final publishing queue, and I think people's going to enjoy it because I laughed my ass off through the whole thing.
That's incredible. Well, you talked about some of the authors you've worked with, like Jonathan Mayberry and Pierce Anthony. Is there anyone you haven't worked with that's on your wish list?
Craig Allenson for sure, but I talked to him at Dragon Con, and he might be joining for next year's Trailer Park if I can get a hold of him again. I don't know. Jim Butcher would be cool. I mean, really, working with is cool, but honestly, I like sitting down and talking to them.
Me too.
I like picking their brain, and not in the workshop or panel setting, but sitting down one-on-one, at BarCon, just
BarCon,
having a chat,
Mm-hmm.
because I got to sit down over beers with Kevin J. Anderson at Superstars, and we were talking IP, we were talking this and that, and it was great.
Yep.
Same thing at Dragon Con, and talking to him some more, I'm like, I really do need to get my eggs in more than one basket, diversify the portfolio, because if I just stick right here, it's not a guaranteed.
Right.
And talking with him, it's like the hustle's constant. You're always looking for the next gig, even though you got this one finished and you're wrapping up the next one, but you got 3 more stacked up. Well, what's after that? So you're always hustling that next one to add into the line. And it's work. That's the main thing when you get into publishing. Well, publishing especially, but when you're writing and you're trying to make a living writing, you're hustling constantly, trying to get the next gig and push the next product. It's complete work, and you have to treat it like a job, like a 9 to 5. Because if you don't, you're not going to make it.
Right. Never going to happen. To work, to do that creative job you always want to do, you have to work twice as hard as you ever did at any other job. I'll tell you that right now.
Yep.
So you better love it.
And doing it with a day job sucks.
Oh yeah, which most of us do, right? That's just part of the gig for a long time, unfortunately.
Well, I've been doing 3 jobs since 2019 because I've been doing the publishing side too.
Right. Yep. Friday Blue wants to know: did you use any parts of Georgia in the books, like people's, places, scenery? Was there any part of Georgia that you added?
Actually, yeah. In Widowmakers, I've actually got a scene where my character's kind of backtracking a little bit, flashback of when he was back home, reminiscent about the nose art that he had put on the aircraft, and it was based off an ex-girlfriend he had. He named the aircraft Jumpin' Jess, and him and the girl had been guarding her daddy still, and things got a little heated and this and that. And, they ended up catching a revenue up on the mountainside. But that was set up just down, I think, I had him down in Micklemore Cove, just over here in Walker County. Let's see, Flux Runners, they stop in Atlanta. Atlanta's one of the main hubs for that series.
Makes sense based on where it is. I could buy that.
That's it on those. Nothing in the short stories anywhere that I've been in yet. No, I take it back. My Braxton character actually comes from Chickamauga. So all my Braxton stories, see, there's at least two that he's mentioned Chickamauga,
Mhm.
and in the novel he's actually at home for a few things, and then I got um, the Phantom Horse Brewing down here is with Pie Slingers, my hangout where I go right, and that became the Phantom Horse Pub that he goes and hangs out and gets his breakfast. You know, he gets his big old platter breakfast with a beer to go along with it, and that's just that character.
I love it. I love it. Well, you talked about Widowmakers, and that's in the Joint Task Force 13 novels.
Yep.
And in that one, there's a door that opens to the Fey world, and it's caused by like violence and emotional turmoil. So hence, it's at it takes place during wars a lot. I
Um,
adore that concept. Like, do you know what inspired that? Like, where did that come from?
Actually, that wasn't mine.
Is that one the Chris Kennedy one?
Nope, nope.
Who's that one?
Actually, the JTF universe started with Canon Publishing and John Holmes.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
he had put together the original Origins anthology.
Hmm.
I wrote the first novel, which was Widowmakers.
Hmm.
And after that, it wasn't turning out to be what he was really wanting it to be. And since I wrote the first novel, he passed it off to me, and we transferred the IP over to Three Ravens.
Gotcha.
Which that's the legacy novel cover, and this is the original cover that Holmes had put out. It just happens to be the one that I had up on the shelf, and
Yeah,
you can get
perfect.
both of them. They're both available. I didn't want to take it down, so I just did a new ISBN for the new updated cover. Um, I'm not sure. I know part of the idea came from a friend of his who had written a short story about a dragon that a unit had ran across in the Middle East,
Mm.
and that kind of spurred the general idea. Um,
Well,
but from there,
this series, it takes place in different wars, and you chose World War II. Why did you choose that specific conflict?
just because I've always wanted to write in World War II, and I'm an
Mm.
aircraft mechanic by trade,
Right?
and I actually used my last duty squadron, the Second Fighter Squadron, which at that time was the Second Pursuit Squadron, flying P-61s in France in 43.
Wow.
So I had my squadron, and he was at a forward operating base. He was an extension, or the unit and the main character, and everybody else. Well, I won't tell too much. Um, he gets his ass handed to him to start with, but I actually got to tie into some of my career in the Air Force with all that. But I shared one of the murals that we had in the Second Fighter Squadron down in Tyndall. I think it's gone now because that hangar got toasted when the hurricane come through a few years ago. But they had all the aircraft up on the mural that the squadron had flown over the years, and there was a P-61 right there, and I always loved looking at that. I had a model of that when I was in high school too, and I always loved the way that thing looked. You had the quad 50s on the top on the turret, you had the quad 20 mils on the belly. At one point they had a quad 50 on the bottom too that tied in, but they didn't have that for long. That was only on one or two of the prototypes. But it was mean, it was armored. I mean, it was the equivalent of an A-10 back then. You could lay in
We
rocket
love the
pods.
A-10, man.
Yeah, you could lay in rocket pods, napalm pods, bombs, all extra gun pods under the wings. There were all these extra stations you could load up, and well, I had my guys do some modifications in the field, and they had some fun with it. And see, the JTF Legends, which I think you got the cover cycling through there. That's the upcoming anthology for JTF 13. Yeah, right there. And that one I actually have a follow on from my Widowmakers crew, and the crew splits up, which my wife, she actually wrote one story and has half the crew, and I took the other half, and my guys went to Russia to go help the Allies on that front, fighting against a tank battle and well, an ice dragon.
I mean, where else would an ice dragon be? That totally makes sense to me.
It turned out to be mostly an action-packed flight fight. Holy crap, we're getting beat up, watching other planes drop out of the sky, and this dragon's just waylaying everything. So,
I'm
it
thinking
was interesting.
you might have to use different fighting techniques against a dragon than you would, another
Yeah.
pilot. You'd have to change it up a little.
So I got to do a follow on, and eventually I'm going to write a follow on novel to this, and it might actually go into the Pacific after the fact, because a lot of after the victory in Europe, a lot of the units went straight to the Pacific.
Yep, my grandpa did.
So I might do a follow on novel to this there, but right now I've been working on the first modern JTF novel, which is going to be more like an action thriller. And it's going to be a lot darker, a lot grittier. And that's one thing with the JTF series. You're going to have legacy novels, which span from the Revolutionary War-ish to modern day. And we haven't set the exact date yet. We're thinking like 2016, 2017, and that's when the history shift happens. And there's going to be a major there's going to be some shit go down. That's going to change the way the JTF operates and
Gotcha.
the way the world sees things too. But the general premise that Holmes and them had come up with was that war or any major disturbances thin the veil between worlds. So things slip through. Well, the Tuatha De Day, the world of the Fae. You cross over and then you come back and 200 years have passed, even though you've been there for 2 years, so you get these time dilations and things like that, depending. And we set some hard, fast rules, like, there's really no magic that people can use. And if you pick up that staff from that wizard that just came through the portal and try to use it, you're probably going to burn out because you're not attuned to that frequency kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And, there's been hints at a wider arcing story and back history, and that's going to start coming out a lot more with the modern novels. We're going to see a lot of that and the back history of what a lot of this actually is.
Well, you have more freedom once you can make it all up, right? So at that point, you'll be able to make it all up. So
right,
it gives you a lot more freedom. Yeah, no, I like that. Yeah.
Well, not even that, just tying in the back history that had kind of got started originally with Holmes and the crew, but we fleshed it out even more. We went into more detail and got a lot more to play with now. And Jason Cordova is actually working on a trilogy for the modern stuff with his Jackals unit. So whenever he gets that done, we'll get that into the queue. The next one, besides the Legends anthology that's up, will be Wave Song by Michael Gantz, and that takes place 80s Cold War submariners, and he's got a couple of different creatures in there, so they get to play a little bit. After that, it's another World War II Down Under, and I forgot what the creature is off the top of my head, but it's Australian World War II.
You have to have an Emu War one. My son would be very happy. He loves the Emu War. He thinks it's hilarious.
It gives people an opportunity to play in historical events that they've always wanted to do with no other real option of how to. Well, Casey Moores, he did Widowmaker, or not Widowmaker. He did Witch Hunt.
I was like, is that one yours? Yeah.
It's set in the Civil War time frame. And he did a beautiful, beautiful setup on it. And his story is actually the anchor story for the Legends Antho. It's the back history of his main character, Addison Green. It's the story of his father and why he's so famous and legendary. So everybody gets to see what happened now.
I love it, leading up to the rest. So this one, Joint Task Force, this is Three Ravens Press, yes?
Yes, Three Ravens Publishing.
And then, publishing. And then, but Wildcat is the Wildcat is Foreclosure of a Dream. That's Fallen World series, right? So that one is Chris Kennedy Publishing.
And Smuggler's Run is part of the Salvage system, Kevin Steverson Salvage Universe, which is Chris Kennedy Publishing.
Gotcha. So how'd you get involved with Chris Kennedy Publishing? Is that just part of that,
just
you
the networking.
Just have to make the work.
Well, it's networking. It's finding where to write. And, I wrote a short for Woods for one of the Fallen World anthologies, and him and Kennedy told me, go ahead and write the novel. It's like, okay. So I went ahead and wrote the novel. And then what was it? There was the Salvage Universe anthology coming up, and Woods started tossing. He tossed his part of the story. He's like, okay, go ahead and write a chapter. I mean, we wrote 5 chapters in a day.
Wow.
but it was just
That
flowing,
story was
and
speaking to you, man. Yeah.
we were trying to just leave each other hanging, and just we were trying to screw each other over. Where is it? There it is, and leave each other in alerts to where you got to figure out how to get out of this. We wrote the full novel in under a month because the same thing. We were just back and forth trying to screw each other over. It's like, all right, get out of that one now. Let's see what you do to get in. It's like, you really, you left me like that? Why? You don't love me, do you, man?
How
What the
dare
hell?
you?
And if it helps you figure out how bad and cheesy this is, can you tell what that is on the cover? Does that look familiar at all?
No, maybe back it up a little.
Well, I mean, the ship itself. Does the shape remind you of anything like maybe a Winnebago?
You try to do Spaceballs.
And did you check out the cool van art on the side? It's kind of hard to
Yeah.
see there.
Yeah, I see it. It's a little.
It's a
close.
wizard
Yeah.
fighting a dragon.
Oh no, that's awesome.
But my main character, Van Hagar, he fell in love with everything that is the 80s. And then Chris's character, Rip Torn, he's the man whore that gets him into trouble. Well, Rippleton Torn,
Oh,
which I've been listening through the audio for that, proofing it so we can get that approved and out to the public.
man,
This
that
was
takes
just
forever. Oh,
this was just stupid fun. I mean,
That's
it was so much fun to write. We had a blast. We've got a trilogy planned.
uh-huh.
The last 2 years have sucked between me and him because he lost his dad to cancer. We had all that going on here with my brother-in-law, lost him to cancer, and just all the rigmarole that goes along with it. So we were behind on getting this knocked out, but there's 2 more of these coming. They're plotted. We just had to sit down and do it. We're
And you got to be in
working
the right
it.
frame of mind, especially if you're going
Right.
to write it the same way again. Yeah, no doubt.
But it's going to, we've already decided, it's like once we sit down to finish the second one, we're going to go ahead and finish the third one after that, turn them both into Kennedy after we get them edited to where we're happy. And that way they're done and they're out there, and it's just going to be stupid fun.
I love it.
And we knew going into that one that it was either going to be, you was going to love it or you're going to hate it. And if you look at the ratings, there's some 1s and 2s and there's some 4s and 5s, but there's no 3s.
You're like, I told you.
Because of what it is.
People are gonna love it or hate it. Yeah, I love it. Well, I want to go back real quick, just the Wildcat, real quick,
Okay.
because that's in the Fallen World series. Because that character really spoke to me, and what a
You read
great
that one.
name, Leander Calloway Toller. Oh, holy moly, what an amazing name! But now I'm wondering, because as I was reading it, I'm hearing your voice. So how much of that is like autobiographical? How much did you actually, or is it like someone you know, and that's just why it felt so authentic? Like where does that all come from?
Honestly, out of everything that I've wrote so far, I found my voice writing Wildcat.
I believe it. I
found
totally
my
feel it.
writing voice writing that one. And I there's scenes in there that I can't go back and read, or it even gets hard to talk about because I put myself in a dark place, and I understand method actors now because you put yourself into a dark place to be able to do scenes and just to write them sometimes. And there were things that I didn't want to ever think about ever being in that situation, but I put myself there, and by God, that hurt. And it takes
though.
It takes a bit. And I actually had some people come back and send me messages thanking me for being so raw and gritty and putting it out there so people understand how it is sometimes.
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, that alone was payoff.
Mhm.
I affected somebody positively. They felt good about it. And Leander Calloway Toller, that's actually my grandfather on my mama's side.
Really, what a great name he had. That is wonderful.
I just, it's like, I'm going to use that name just cause.
Good call.
A lot of the places, I mean, I grew up there. That's my stomping grounds. I grew up in Williamson, Logan, Gilbert, that little gas station at the top of Horsepen. Been there many a times. The Hatfield Cemetery. Been there, done that. Been up there, talked to Devil Anse myself. Which he's a distant cousin, like fourth cousin, twice removed, if I remember right. Yeah, something like that. But yeah, man, I mean, that's all my stomping grounds. Blair Mountain, me and Papaw used to go up there. Me and Papaw were the ones that went picking the grapes and the berries and going hunting and all that up there. Um, so, I did write a bunch of me in it. And at the same time, my research was Fallout, because I like Fallout and I like post-apocalyptic. And what got me hooked into the series to start with was I was listening to the audio for the first Fallen World book from Chris Woods did, and I hadn't even made it halfway through chapter 1, and I'm sending a message like, dude, how much Fallout 4 have you played? Because it's like you were going right down the streets of Boston, the scrapers, the raiders, like, really, dude? And he's like, well, about 1,000 hours. Yeah, it shows just a little bit. Well, what was it? Maya, I guess, was the one. No, not Maya. Tiffany, I think, was the one that edited Wildcat. She was like, how much Fallout 76 have you played? None. How do you know this stuff? I grew up there. So, same kind of thing. Unfortunately true. Yeah, Maya.
Not that you grew up there, that people have no sense of humor. That's what's unfortunately true.
But no, I dug into stuff growing up, and I like to lace in little tidbits like, redneck. Really, who knows where the term redneck came from? At one time, redneck had a good connotation, because the miners that were fighting for the rights of the Union in Logan and Mingo and Wyoming counties were marching across Blair Mountain to the Logan County Courthouse to institute the union in those coal mines, because they were tired of working for nothing. They were tired of the safety issues, and they wanted something new. They got the term redneck because they all wore red bandanas. Those men were fighting for their freedom. They were fighting for the betterment of their families, because a lot of people don't understand that back in that time frame, late 1800s, early 1900s, you worked for the coal company. You stayed in a coal company house. Well, you paid rent to the coal company for their house. If you had electricity, you paid the electricity to the coal company for the coal company house. You got paid in company script, which you could only spend at the company store, which was at jacked up rates. You could go ahead and get credit at the company store at a high interest rate. You lived and worked for the company until the day you died.
It's really not that different now.
Well, they never got out of debt with the coal company, though.
Yeah,
and that's what they were trying to get out of, along with the safety issues. They wanted better working conditions. They wanted to be able to live and breathe, and and the Pinkertons and the the West Virginia National Guard was actually called out, or it might have been the Federal National Guard, or the Federal Guard was called out. They were actually dropping bomblets out of the side of biplanes on these guys. There were machine gun nests on top of Blair Mountain, and hillbillies won, and they got across. But the Battle of Blair Mountain, look it up. It's the deadliest battle, non-wartime, on American soil, where the U.S. the U.S. military actually fired on civilians. It's all about the money, baby.
It's always all about the money, unfortunately. Speaking of money, you do a lot of collaborations, and I love it. Like, you have a lot of anthologies, a lot of series of novels with different authors in them. So it's not just your series, you know what I mean, where you're sharing worlds. What is the benefit to collaborating in that fashion?
I mean, anthologies in general are fun. I think it was during the pre-show that I was talking about how getting Pierce Anthony, getting some of these old guard in, and those opening essays I've been getting from these guys, to get personal experiences in the genres that they've been writing, and to get some kind of helpful words of wisdom from these guys. And part of that came from when I was doing my podcast, TDB Pirate Radio. And one of the first guests I had on there was actually Ben Bova. And he was nice enough to come on a second time, because the audio did not record. And he let me record him again. And, he is one of the reasons why I get up at 0400 in the morning. And unless I am absolutely exhausted or sick, I'm up at 0400. But he said, if you're going to do it, shut up and do it. Sit your butt in a seat, set your time, make your schedule, and you do it. And that's where I cranked out 4 novels in a year.
That's awesome.
Now, the last year and a half or so, I've been doing a lot of anthologies and all that, but we've had a lot of life going too. And I've been building the platform that is Three Ravens Publishing. And now it's time for me to crank out some novels. And well, I've got a couple of deals on the table right now that I'm working, and things might be changing soon. So that'll be a good thing. I'm just waiting for paperwork. Which Maya, I might be tapping you, by the way. Might need help.
Maya, check your email.
But no,
she's up on her email. I'm sure
I'm working on that JTF novel. I got to get this. I got a short story that I'm writing for the Writers of the Future contest, because that's one of those things that it still has value, in my opinion. As much as the dragons are adored, the dragons in essence are a popularity contest. So they have awards, they to me they have very little value. The ones that are actually on the merit of the work, like the Writers of the Future contest, it's on the merit of the work. It's not on a popularity contest, because, if Larry Correia wanted to win something, all he's got to do is go, all right, minions, go. It's already been proven. He's done that. But, I look for those that actually have some kind of substantial value, because it's based on the merit of the work itself. So anybody that wants to get into a contest like that, I suggest Writers of the Future all day long. And they've got a free writing course that you can go and take. And it's a decent course. It's just got a lot of good stuff. Even for somebody that's been writing for a while, it's a good refresher to remember where you came from, where you started, and some of the things you may have forgotten, Mm-hmm. But I've got, the JTF, which was it, Blacktooth Grin is going to be the name. It's Widowmaker's Blacktooth Grin is the name of my JTF novel that I'm working on. And after that, I've got Shepherd's Call, which is going to be the first book in the Black Wish series that I got knocked out. And that all depends on some of this other paperwork for these projects that are in work that I'm waiting on. So we'll see, because things might get shifted around, and one project shifted to the side so I can go over here to this other one.
But I have to explain all the time. I'm like, publishing is slow because we're juggling.
Right. And, and that's one thing with a lot of these.
We're faster than so many other publishers, right? Because we're smaller, so we can pivot quicker, but it still takes time. There's a lot of juggling going on.
And with these anthologies I've had going on, and I apologize to everybody that submitted and had to wait so extra long, but since February, dealing with my brother-in-law's cancer was just busy here at the house, and it took up a lot of time. Everything got behind on the publishing schedule, but family comes first.
Always. Yep.
So, and Trailer Park is one of those, it's going to go out on time. My God, I'm going to make it happen, because this is our Halloween special. This is what we're doing. Everything else can get backed up, but that one's going out on time.
But this one's coming out. I love it. Love it.
And it's in editing right now, and we're working on it.
Yay, so exciting. Well, you've made it to our lightning round.
Okay.
So we have our lightning round questions. These are the very important ones that everyone likes to ask all the time. By everyone, I mean us, and our audience will judge you by them. All right, here we go. Ready?
Okay.
What is your favorite flavor of ice cream?
Base chocolate. Otherwise, give me mocha and fudge and nuts and marshmallows and all the other good stuff stacked on with some caramel on top and a little extra fudge icing. Okay, yeah. Chocolate coffee. Mm-hmm.
Chocolate coffee. I love it. Can zombies climb?
Yes, absolutely. They got fingers. They can still grab.
There you go. I'll go be happy with that one.
Unless they lost a hand.
That's true, right? A whole other issue. All right. Steak on the grill or cast iron?
Either or, depending on season, but bloody.
Oh, yeah. No doubt. For sure. What is your favorite fast food restaurant?
Really don't have one, because we don't really eat fast food a whole lot. I get Wendy's would be the one that we go to a lot, just because we're on a specific diet.
I feel you, but you also have kids that are running a company and a full-time job, and right? I mean, come on, sometimes
It usually ends up Wendy's because
There
their
you go.
menu is cleaner than others. So
They have actual vegetables on there.
Yeah.
Beer, liquor, or wine?
all
I know I'm
above.
making you choose. That's so mean.
Um, all of the above. I mean, beer, I guess. I don't know liquor. Look, Shine.
There
How
you
about
go.
homemade? There we go.
Oh, there you
'Cause
go.
I
That's
make
a good
all,
answer.
and actually, my beer cake should be here tomorrow, so I can start that stout.
Ooh, we'll have to exchange. Safe, I'll have to make some too and exchange at Superstars. You make your stout now, it might be ready by Superstars.
Yeah, should be.
Mhm.
It'd be close.
Yep. So finally, where can fans find you and your work?
You can either find me at WilliamJosephRoberts.com or ThreeRavensPublishing.com, and from there you can find the plethora of social media pages because there's like Dear God 16. It's like Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Blogger, the Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube. Oh God, TikTok, Clapper, Ibbler or Ibble, High Notes, LinkedIn. I lost count. There's a lot.
I think he's making some of those up just for the record. Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Now that William is your new favorite author, please make sure to review his work. You can also review us wherever it is you get your podcast, and subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Twitch. And we will see you next week for the launch of Endman by Alex Austin. We'll see you then.